It says a lot about your team when you beat 4 SEC ranked teams in a row. And of course, that's never been done in history.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back into Locked On Bama, AHSA Radio Network's Luke Robinson. That's me. Alabama internet legend Jimmy Stein. That's him. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. I'll tell you about FanDuel in just a little bit. I want to thank you everydayers for being here every day. Thank you, newbies, for being here today. Thanks, everybody, for making this your first listen every single day. I gave a lot of shout outs last night. I'll try and redo those because, frankly, Jimmy, I screwed up and tried to edit something last night, and it turned into just a complete. I mean, it'd be like if you said to me, hey, why don't you, we have all the ingredients. Could you go make a chocolate souffle? And I'd be like, sure. And then you leave the kitchen for 5 minutes and you come back and everything's on fire. And I'm like, don't worry, I'm getting there. That's how me and editing on this software.
Yeah. I want to shout out Laura, who I met on Friday at the SEC Nation set. She watches the show. And
Laura Ingraham?
No, it was a different Laura. See, we had two different Lauras over the weekend.
Yeah, if you didn't listen last night, somehow, some way, I ran into Laura Ingraham of Fox News, and I mean, she's incredibly famous. I know what she looks like, and I just didn't know it was her. I can't believe I didn't know. And then I got in her video somehow, and so I'll probably be on Fox News, and I'll probably get a lot of bad phone calls, but that's okay. So, anyway, Jimmy,
people out of context, that happens all the time. When there's famous people, but it's out of context, sometimes it's easy not to know who you're looking at. I think there's quite a few famous people that go to Alabama games all the time. I was down the sidelines one time. My wife and I were down actually on the field on the sidelines, and we saw Katie Couric.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how is, wow.
She's the cousin of a dude from Alex City who's a monster Alabama fan too. So I think she's an Alabama fan, but I'm not sure about that. Anyway, what an atmosphere last night. I mean, that's where I probably should start with this. I don't think we talked about that enough on the, immediate reaction show, like how wonderful the atmosphere was. I was really impressed. All you fans out there, man, y'all did God's work last night. I really do believe that. I think it was a great atmosphere to bring recruits, a great atmosphere for my daughter brought her boyfriend who goes to Ohio State, and they sat out in the student section because she's a freshman. And I texted her and I said, well, how's he liking it? He said, this is 10 times better than any game he's ever been to. He was just eating it up. I mean, he was like, in fact, it was funny. I was talking to him at one of the fraternity houses for the game because they don't really do fraternity sororities all that much. It's not as big a deal, whatever. And I said, yeah, you should come for homecoming sometime. And he goes, okay, what exactly do you mean homecoming? And I was like, well, I'm sure y'all have a homecoming game. He was like, yeah, I think we do. He said, but what do you mean? And I was like, well, we don't have all this pomp and circumstance and parades. And he goes, oh, we won't do that. And I was like, oh, it's kind of a big deal around here. So, yeah, you ought to figure it out. But really just a great job by the fans last night staying involved. And you pointed out something last night, and I slept on this, that coming out of the tunnel, DeBoer looked so much different than he has in some other times where, if somebody wanted to have a real complaint about DeBoer, maybe, that he kept Jalen Milroe too long. Some people complained about that, or that he didn't have us fired up for some certain games that we should have been. Those are legitimate. But I think the prevailing complaint was like, we don't just seem to know a ton about him. He hadn't been as fiery as we'd like. I think he's changed that narrative. He has been fiery lately. And this particular game, he comes out, he's punching the foam around the goalpost. He's getting in Ty Simpson's face when Ty had that one terrible play. I'm loving that. So, I mean, I think it's
smack him on the butt, Saban style.
Yeah, he really did. So, I thought kudos to him, kudos to the staff. And right now I'm just going sort of hodgepodge because I had to wake up extra early just to see some of the highlights so I could talk more about it. Another thing that stood out to me was we had a trick play And this has happened more than once this year. We are determined to throw some kind of Jeremy Bernard pass. By God, we're going to do it. We did it against Georgia, but it didn't go for the length we want. It really went for like 4 yards, and then we were going to do a different one against Georgia, which didn't work out. But we tried one here against Tennessee, and it looked like he was going to try and throw it back to Ty, but Jeremy very wisely saw a Tennessee dude there and was like, uh-oh. And so he just starts taking off. I'm not so sure Jeremy Bernard's not our best running back with the moves he has. Like between tackles, no.
You play him like a running back, it tends to be productive, which is a strange look for us because we're not very productive from running back. I mean, there was comments last night. I mean, obviously it's the number one problem on the team as far as I'm concerned is lack of production from the running back position. And there were people saying last night, like a quote that I saw was like, we found our running back, referring to the fact that Daniel Hill did give us a bit of a spark late in the game. Daniel Hill had like 34 yards on 7 carries. Which is fine. That's fine. But it's not like it only took that to win people over. 35 yards or 34 yards on 7 carries. It's the number one problem, I think, on this team. It's a combination of lack of production from the running back position in relation to maybe some problems blocking up front in the run game. But apart from the negativity loop, the offensive line was spectacular. No sacks. They gave up no sacks to the league's top pass rush in terms of number of sacks. They gave up 0. And I think it's related myself between not being able to run the ball and not giving up sacks. I think our constant juggling on the offensive line, I've been talking about for weeks on the show, has been an effort to find the 5 best pass blockers because that's how this team's going to have success. Clearly, is throwing the football to that great wide receiver core. And we've got to protect the quarterback to do that. And I think all that juggling on the offensive line has resulted in, pretty good pass protection group now, but maybe not the best run blocking group. Or maybe we should say maybe it's just simply the emphasis on pass pro. But the pass pro A++ last night, run blocking, not so much. But hey, if it's perfect, then all that happens is you get bumped up to the NFL, and then we'd never win games.
The run blocking is bad, and I'm not sure our running backs are great at dealing with that. In the past, there have been some running backs that even when their blocking's bad, they have a way of finding some yardage. Our running backs, that's just not what they're built for. Jam Miller is built for make a hole of some description. I'm going to go get you 3.5 yards, which is great. Kevin Riley's like, I need a little bit bigger hole, and I'm going to need a little help past that probably. Daniel Hill is very north-south. Like you said, I had so many people tell me, what about Daniel Hill? Because they know I've been loving me some Daniel Hill for a while. And I was like, yeah, I'm really excited. But I think you put it best. I'm only super excited because my expectations were so low. These low set expectations have made it where I'm like, Daniel Hill's going to be a star. But 7 carries for 34 yards isn't exactly lighting the world on fire, especially when he did it late in the game when they really hadn't seen him. So we were sort of like, they didn't even have a chance to get adjusted to his style. But I'll say this, Daniel Hill ran his butt off. He put his head down and he tried to get extra yards. I appreciated that.
Yeah, I almost say that he, and you hate that it's switching up every week, but it's almost a desperation, trying to find some production there. I would say he sort of moved ahead of Kevin Riley last night, certainly in my eyes, is maybe the guy that should be at least the second running back behind Jam. And Jam, I don't want to be too tough on him. I know he didn't have the greatest of nights, but Jam probably didn't practice very much all week as he was recovering from the concussion. I think when you don't practice much during the week, it really shows up on Saturday. A good non-Alabama example would be a couple of weeks ago when Mateer didn't practice all week. They stuck him out there on Saturday against Texas, and they lost. It's tough. When you didn't practice during the week, it's tough to perform on Saturdays. And I think that probably explains some of the Jam Miller issues. But next Saturday against South Carolina, that should be an opportunity for the run game to have some production. They're not a fantastic defense or run defense. So we'll see what Alabama can cobble together over the next 7 days. But it's the biggest problem on the team as I see it is the run game on offense.
We'll talk about South Carolina all week long, but one thing, I believe South Carolina may be the one team in this stretch we're catching at a good time. They had another loss where they just looked putrid offensively at home. They've also lost against LSU where they looked putrid offensively, and the defense sort of kept them in it for a while. And now looking back, they've got to say, we could have beaten that LSU team with just any help from the offense. So I wonder if South Carolina has passed the line of demarcation where it's, especially in these day and times when you have more room for error, but you've committed so many errors now, there's no way you can make the playoffs. And you're sort of like, maybe we just mail it in. And so maybe that will be South Carolina. I don't know.
That may be happening. My concern, trust me, I always find something to worry about. Alabama's focus has had to be so ratcheted up, playing 4 ranked opponents in a row in the first year of SEC history, to beat 4 ranked opponents in a row without an off week somewhere in the mix. And now you're playing the quote, and I'm using air quotes for those listening on podcast, the easy game. Now we have an easy opponent. They're not it won't be easy. You know what? They have SEC football players. A lot of them are good. They have a quarterback that some people have talked about being a first-round pick. Lenore Sellers, and I mean this as a compliment to him. He's always reminded me of Jalen Milroe. I mean as a compliment. We've seen as Alabama fans, Milroe at his very best basically put the entire team on his back and win a game. Lenore Sellers is capable of that. So I don't see this as easy. I hope the team doesn't see it as easy, but I think it's natural human tendency after playing 4 ranked teams. And then, like Luke said, you're catching South Carolina at a good time. If Alabama relaxes, you're in another 60-minute game.
Because the other side of that is, and like I said, it's just my belief we're catching it at a good time. I would say there is a chance that South Carolina is so PO'd and frustrated that they're like, we got to take this out on somebody. And we come strolling in, a little bit banged up, a little bit, reading our own press clippings, and then we lose this one, and all that goodwill's out the arena. But I do want to talk.
The goalposts come down if they beat Alabama. So, So it's I think it's going to be a challenge for the team to get up for the fifth consecutive game you're playing in 5 weeks, and it's on the road in a pretty tough environment against a quarterback that is, again, sometimes projected as a first-round pick.
Got some FanDuel games for y'all today. The NFL season's going on. Shoot, it's going on right now. I mean, as we are recording this. And FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. How crazy is that? It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Crazy? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today, and then you can go get started and start having some fun like Jimmy and me. Then there's Quo. Quo is formerly known as OpenPhone, by the way. You probably already knew that. One of the tools that makes a huge difference for business owners is Quo, formerly OpenPhone. It's the same great business phone system you've heard me talk about before, just with a new name. There's nothing wrong with that. It's like if I started calling Jimmy Steve. And here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer communications. It works right through an app on your phone or your computer, so no more carrying 2 phones or relying on a landline like a sucker. See why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly OpenPhone. Get started for free and get 20% off your first 6 months at QUO.com/LockedOnCollege. That's QUO.com/LockedOnCollege. And if you've got an existing number with another service, Quo will get that handled. They'll port them over at no extra charge. Quo, no missed calls and no missed customers. Jimmy's time. Tell you a quick funny story that happened yesterday. So as I said, I was in a box, and everybody was getting sort of anxious. And you know what I hate about these ABC games, I know somebody else out there is with me. Start time at 6:30. And so like I'm just sort of milling about talking to people, getting a little anxious. And then I look at my watch. Oh, it's 6:28. Let me get ready and start watching this game. Why does it say there's 18 minutes left until kick time on the game clock? Because they really mean kick at 6:45. Don't tell me 6:30 if it's 6:45. I'm going to be on time. Just tell me 6:45. Well, I knew that trick. I knew what was up their sleeve. So I was still sitting there, and one of the ladies that was in the box said, well, here we go. And I looked up, and she was looking the Alabama, like some Alabama highlights are being presented because they honored the 2015 team. And they showed like Alabama running through, these pillars of fire, like in your entrance or whatever. Because here they come. Why isn't everybody making a bunch of noise? And I said, because that's a highlight from 2015, and we're wearing white jerseys, and that's not our stadium. And Derrick Henry's on that team. He just ran out first. And she goes, you didn't have to give me all that evidence. I was like, I feel like I did. I feel like you needed to know this was a horrible thing to say. How about Rico Scott? We didn't bring this up last time. How about Rico Scott's catch and put his head down and get off of me?
Trucked that dude. He trucked a dude getting in the end zone.
He almost fumbled. If you watch it close, really? The ball bobbled, but he held on to it. I mean, it wasn't like I'm mad at him. I'm just saying it's a thing that could have happened. And he just put his head. He's like, I'm not going to go down at the 1 yard line.
I'm always appreciative of wide receivers who, we say this about running backs. Running backs are highly valued when they, quote, fight for the extra yard, when there's only 3 yards there, but they find a 4th yard. Wide receivers need to be the same way. They never, I bet Jamarcus Shepard loses it when his guys run out of bounds.
Yeah.
Make them tackle you, because many times they won't or can't. Make them tackle you. Rico did a fantastic job there of, hey, some might have just stepped up, been happy with getting it down the 2 yard line. Hey, I made the catch. I did my job. No. Rico put his head down to make the extra yards, and it paid off with the touchdown. He's a tough guy. Boy, Alabama's depth at wide receiver is just fantastic. Ryan had a good game. Jeremy had a good game. We know Horton's a good player. We know Lottie Brooks is a good player. But Rico's like the 5th guy, and Rico probably deserves a bigger role than he's got. There's just no room.
Did you think that Horton's touchdown was very similar to the touchdown Bryce Young threw to John Mechie in the final overtime to end the game in the Iron Bowl of 2021?
I didn't pick up on that.
He comes in and then cuts out immediately.
Yeah, right. I call that getting open in a phone booth, where wide receivers achieve separation in a very small area. It takes a technician to do that. That's not wild athletic ability to me so much as it's a technician. Mechie was as good at it as any guy we ever had. Again, achieving separation in a small area. Tough to do. Of course, Zay Horton's got a big body, which is very helpful. He can shield, almost block out like a rebounder on some of those 50-50 throws.
I also like the fact that I don't think anybody got even hurt long enough for the staff to come out and check them out, if I remember right.
I don't recall that either. So knock on wood. I think, we've lost a few guys for the season, and they've all been front 7 guys. We've missed Quay Russaw, particularly against Vanderbilt, Missouri. Talked about last night, Yanze Pierre, best game of his whole career, because he finally started a game where he had a good matchup, a team that's going to drop back in the pocket and the quarterback's sackable. When you play Vanderbilt, Missouri, you're not going to have many sack opportunities at all based on the type and style of offense they run. But Tennessee, you can get to Aguilar, and boy, Yanze Pierre did. But we've missed Quay Russaw. We've missed Jeremiah Beeman. Mm-hmm. We missed Ryan for a game. There's been a few things that have happened, but overall, this is a pretty healthy football team considering you've now played 7 games. You're about to play your 8th game. Pretty healthy team, and I think that's as responsible for anything that we're likely to be number 4 in the polls when they come out later today.
And speaking of that, last night, so after we'd cut the podcast and I'd, disastrously try to edit the video for no apparent reason. I don't even know why I was trying to edit it. I don't even remember what I saw that, I just remember thinking, why? I mean, midway through, I'm like, why am I doing this again? This is a lot of work for something that doesn't even matter. But anyway, I'm watching college football final, and Joey Galloway, of all people, they're talking about their first segment, and Joey said, look, he said, I went to Ohio State. I love Ohio State. And he said, I think that Ohio State probably should be the number one team in the country. But doesn't Alabama have the most credentials to be the number one team in the country? He's like, I know they got a loss. And yeah, he said, but that feels like 2 years ago. And he said, clearly, the Florida State team they played is different than this Florida State team now, who, by the way, lost to Stanford last night. And clearly, this Alabama team is so far removed from what they were. He's like, I'm not saying, yeah, it is. Now Alabama is like this crispy white shirt that has a very faint stain. It's a white cashmere sweater with a little red dot, and like Seinfeld. And I'm not sure anybody can find that red dot anymore.
I'm not saying I'm upset. I mean, I agree with Joey Galloway that it feels like it's 2 years ago now, that Florida State game. It's so hard to explain. I tried to, the way I've tried to explain it in the past have been hollow, because Florida State has just proven to be so average. I think in the end, some people are going to say, well, they just weren't ready to play. Well, no, I wouldn't say that's true, because Alabama came out of the gate with a fantastic offensive drive in the game. I think what they weren't ready for, Luke, and what they've now proven, they weren't ready for responding when you get punched in the mouth. They weren't ready to respond when the car is driven in the ditch and you got to drive it out. They weren't ready to react to things going sideways. They weren't ready for that. They decided that week of Louisiana Monroe that they wanted to be a team that was ready for that. And boy, have they been.
Yeah, it's been so good. Let me tell you guys now about Monarch. Monarch is fantastic. Love me some Monarch. And yes, that is their new name. That's what they want to be called by, Monarch. Let's be honest, most of us can't even name all our financial institutions, let alone what they're worth. Between 401ks and savings and investments, it's easy to lose track. And that can mean leaving money on the table. That's why I started using Monarch, an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarch.com. It's just monarch.com, monarch.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarch.com. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year at monarch.com. With all these Jimmy Stein guarantees, you're going to need a place to put all that money. And monarch.com is the place. Okay, so some early CFP talk. And again, I know it's very early, but if y'all are like me at all, I love getting up and just seeing, okay, what does everybody else think that, who does everybody else think we could be playing in the playoffs? I don't know why I couldn't just dream up the scenarios myself. I just sort of like seeing other people do it. It's probably laziness. But ESPN has come out and said, of course, Alabama would be in the playoffs. And ESPN has us as number 3. That they would have us, if the CFP were today, it'd be Ohio State, and then Indiana, and then Alabama, and then Texas A&M, and then Georgia, then Miami, Ole Miss, Oregon at 8, Oklahoma at 9, Georgia Tech 10, BYU 11, and Notre Dame 12. And so if we were the 3 seed, as I get another phone call, which I just told somebody, please don't call me. If we were the 3 seed, we would play the winner of Georgia Tech, Ole Miss. Look, first of all, I don't see how Georgia Tech's going to really have to step on their ding-ding to not get in this playoff now. 100%. They're pretty good.
Their schedule's custom made for it. Shout out to Josh Pate, who was saying that all summer long. Has watched Georgia Tech as a playoff team. Combination of a good team, good solid team with an experienced quarterback in Haynes King, but the schedule was just set up for it. And back in the summertime, he was saying, okay, the Clemson's a loss. But other than that, Tech can run the Tech. Clemson wasn't a loss. They beat Clemson, who lost again yesterday. I agree with Luke. It's hard to imagine Georgia Tech not being in the playoff based partly on schedule. They are a good football team. By the way, if Georgia Tech played Ole Miss, I think, would be almost a heavy favorite, and I would expect Ole Miss to win the game.
Hey, look, I was still impressed with Ole Miss yesterday even though they lost to Georgia. The fourth quarter kind of came apart, but I always knew Ole Miss is going to be one of those. It's a long-term project. Like Lane has taken them from, not very good to where, okay, you don't want to play them, but if they play Alabama or Georgia or somebody, they're going to get beat. Well, they got over that a little bit last year at home, and this year they beat LSU at home again, but they still aren't ready for the fourth quarter of a big game yet. They just aren't ready for it, like against a real big team. I mean, they might be ready for it against Auburn or LSU or something like that. They're not ready for a fourth quarter at Georgia yet. Not ready for it.
Here's a very interesting playoff question, I think, for everyone, this scenario. If it does end like ESPN just projected, and by the way, I think that's going to be today's top four is Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, Alabama. Let's say the regular season ends that way. Well, then clearly you have Ohio State playing Indiana in the Big Ten championship game, Alabama playing Texas A&M in the SEC championship game. It will be interesting. Is the committee going to drop you for losing the Big Ten championship game or the SEC championship game? Clearly, you're not falling out of the playoff, but are you falling in the rankings when you lose in the championship game? I would argue in the SEC and Big Ten, probably you shouldn't. Big 12 and ACC, you might should because you're not playing, quote, Ohio State or Alabama in that game, right? I mean, I think if you're playing Georgia Tech in the ACC championship game and you lose, maybe with your record and resume, maybe you should fall in the rankings or even fall out of the playoff.
Yeah,
I still think it's a strong data point, but I don't think you should be dinged for losing in the SEC or Big Ten championship game. There's just too many elite teams. ACC and Big 12, I would treat differently. A lot of people will be upset about that, but I think if you look at like last year, I felt that maybe Clemson should have knocked SMU out when SMU lost, because to me that showed I don't think SMU is one of the 12 best teams. That's what that game was, a data point that I think proved that they weren't really one of the 12 best teams. But they didn't ding SMU at all. They stayed in the playoff field, obviously, and lost quickly.
A couple of other quick things that I thought about last night. All right. This isn't the best way to look at it, and it's only a fan who could do this. The team and the coaching staff certainly can't. But assuming Alabama beats South Carolina, which I hadn't seen a line, but I think will be heavily favored, then we play an LSU team that, frankly, they may just be on the brink. They if they lose to A&M, they'll be that's down the toilet. You can forget it. Their goals are gone.
I'm thinking our guest picker Friday, Courtney McKinney, and her friends at Message Board Genius had a heck of a night last night with LSU. I bet the LSU message boards were unkind to Brian Kelly after the Vanderbilt loss.
And then, so we play an Oklahoma team, again, in Tuscaloosa, and again, in a dangerous spot right after probably a very emotional LSU game. But if we win those three games, and this certainly I would favor us in all three, and I think we will win all three, we're in. Because it's Eastern Illinois, and then it's Auburn, and even if we lose to Auburn, it doesn't matter. I mean, I don't ever want to say that, and that's one thing I hate about the expanded playoffs. I personally would rather beat Auburn than do a lot of different things. But I also know that if we go 10-2 with this schedule, and one of the losses is to a Florida State team that may have a losing record, and to an Auburn team that may have a losing record, two of the losses, I should say, I don't think it'll matter. I think people will get it. They'll be like, well, they were a totally different team at the beginning of the year. That loss catapulted them to what they became. And then at the end of the year, they were safely in. They're already in the SEC title game. So what the heck did it matter? So that's the only thing that bothers me as a guy who hates Auburn, is that we might not show up with our best stuff in Jordan-Hare.
When Alabama plays Auburn, is their head coach Hugh Freeze or DJ Durkin?
It may be DJ Khaled if somebody doesn't start winning something over there.
Yeah. I don't think it'll be Hugh Freeze.
It can't be, Jimmy.
By the time Alabama gets there. Well, let's remember, interim coaches sometimes provide a spark. Look what's happened at UCLA since they fired Deshaun Foster and promoted Tim Skipper, and obviously the young Neuheisel kid's taking a big role. I mean, look what happened there. I think Arkansas is probably a little bit better team under Petrino here than they were. So just because they'd replace Hugh Freeze with DJ Durkin, who's an experienced head coach from his time at Maryland, it wouldn't mean the complete end of Auburn having any hope to win a game. They still have good players.
Now, I think the Auburn situation is much more like the Arkansas situation than it is UCLA. UCLA, apparently, those players just did not like Deshaun Foster and did not respond to him in the least. The new coaching staff comes in and they're like, okay, now we're going to try hard. And they also caught Penn State at a great time. And then they used that to build off of. Auburn and Arkansas, in a lot of these games, have done enough to win, but they just can't get over the hump. And Arkansas, while they look better not getting over the hump, they're still not getting over the hump. And I think Auburn would be the same way. Like, they would look a little better because, number one, they'd get a new quarterback. I mean, Jackson Arnold ain't it. If there's an Auburn fan that still has faith in Jackson Arnold, God bless you, son.
How he took that sack on the 4th down play last night. And I know it's not a sack because he got rid of the ball.
It's the second time he's done it.
He got rid of the ball to his offensive tackle. But it was just an extremely poor play by Jackson Arnold at the end of that game. I mean, he didn't give his team a chance at the end. And I don't know that they'll change quarterbacks because you're so deep into the year. I don't know that. And I don't know that would be an answer. But it is true that Jackson Arnold has failed to take advantage of the strength of that Auburn team, which is their wide receiver group. But that group's almost irrelevant if the quarterback can't get them the ball.
All right, that's going to do it for today's podcast. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.